looked at someone and thought, how does she do it all? How does someone build an incredible business, lead thousands of people, raise a large family, navigate serious health challenges, build a marriage, and somehow still show up every single day with strength, with compassion, and purpose? Because if we're honest, most of us don't struggle because we don't know what to do. We struggle because life keeps happening while we're trying to build our dreams. Today's conversation isn't about AI. It isn't about systems. It isn't about real estate. It's about what happens when life tests you and you choose to keep showing up anyway. I'm Jessica Rojas, and you're watching Real Talk on the Red Chair. Okay, so today's guest is someone I've admired for a very long time. Bet you didn't know. Not because she's become one of the leading voices in AI within the real estate industry, not because she's an incredible Tom Ferry senior coach, and not because she's an amazing educator. Those things are easy to see. What I've admired is everything most people don't see. Behind every video, behind every presentation, behind every coaching call is a woman who walked through seasons that would have caused many people to quit. She and her husband have built a business together, which I know firsthand is not easy. They've adopted multiple children. They've navigated health battles. And they've learned how to balance marriage, business, parenthood, leadership, and faith, all while continuing to pour into thousands of other people. I've watched her videos, I've shared them with many of my coaching clients, and I have learned from her. But today, I don't want to talk about AI. I want to talk about the woman behind the screen. Kristi, welcome to Real Talk on the Red Chair.
I feel like if I could be blushing on this Zoom, I feel like I'm like, oh my gosh, she's saying all these incredible things. I was like, whoa, thank you for the invitation. And I really appreciate that you reached out so we could have this conversation.
Absolutely. You know, people know you as that AI coach. I know you as someone whose character impresses me even more than your knowledge. So let me ask you something. I've never heard anyone ask, who is Kristi when the camera's off?
I don't know. Who is Kristi when the camera's off? Um, I'm pretty much a homebody. I think people probably don't know that. I just hang out with my family. I think, being on camera and being on the road doing presentations and things like that, that quite honestly, when I'm not coaching and I'm not creating content, then I'm just want to be chilling. I love to be in my backyard with my pool. I love paddleboarding and kind of anything that's just relaxing. I think that's probably a big part of me is when I'm not on camera, out in the public, I just want to be home. I'm a
Exactly.
homebody.
A lot of people don't realize that about us. Yes, just give me some time to just relax at home. Now, you and your husband made a decision that very few people make. You chose adoption. And let me tell you something, I admire this so much because I've always wanted to do this. I have a special needs child, so that's the reason why I didn't. But I'd love for you to share what led you to that decision, what it has taught you about unconditional love.
Yeah, so my husband and we always knew that we wanted to have a family. When we were dating, I always joke, I don't know that we ever decided we wanted 8 children, but we knew that we wanted a big family. We didn't put a number on it. And so shortly after we were married, we were like, you know what, why wait? I was turning 26. And so I was like, well, let's just try this. And so we, for several years we tried to get pregnant and have children, and it just wasn't happening. And so we decided one year when we were setting our goals, we said, okay, that's it. By the end of, so you do your goal planning in December, right? So in December, we're like, by the end of next year, we will either be pregnant. So we were doing fertility treatments, we would be foster parents, we were taking foster care classes, or we would be adopted parents, and we were going through adoption process and doing the home study and all of that kind of stuff. So we knew that our end result was we wanted to have a family, and we didn't care how it happened. We were opening ourselves to not, kind of not just saying, well, there's only one path. We knew that we needed to look at multiple paths. And so we did everything that we could. We were in foster care classes. We did our home study. And then in the middle of that year, it was 2010, we decided to move. And that wasn't in the plans. But we did, we moved. And because of that, we had to go through all of the everything again. Because
Oh,
when you do a home study, it's for that home, right? They come
yes.
into that specific home. So in 2010, we unexpectedly moved, and now we found ourselves in October of that year going through everything again. And we got our very first placement of our kids on December 30th of 2010. And it was the coolest thing because my husband and I, we looked at each other, we're like, we made our goal. Like, we said that we were going to figure that out. And so we continue to do fertility treatments and things like that. We kind of gave up on just the adoption process in terms of like we were going through LDS Family Services, we were looking at Catholic Family Services. We were just like at the time where the adoption agencies were, and we just didn't feel like we were getting anywhere with that. And quite frankly, at that point, we were busy because we went from 0 to 3 kids overnight, and they were 1, 3, and 5. So we kind of
Wow.
made a pact. So we said, Jessica, Meryl, and I just said, like, any child that comes into our household that becomes available for adoption, we would adopt them.
Mm.
And because we just didn't see ourselves fostering and then sending them to someone else to adopt. Like if they were available for adoption, we would do that. And we did. We fostered a lot of kids, and we reunified those kids with their families. And we were then fortunate enough to also be able to adopt several of the children that were placed with us. And up until our very last placement, as we were going through, we stopped taking new placements because we knew that we needed to focus on our kids. And so that was kind of where we were going through the adoption process, going through all of that. We closed our foster care license so we could just focus on the kids that we have. So that's a long example of how it all happened, but quite honestly, we knew the end result was we wanted to have a family. And in fact, when we bought this house, it's 4,000 square feet. It was just Meryl and I. And the people who were helping us move in, they were like, where's the rest of your family? And I was like, it's just us. I was
Oh
like,
my
but
goodness.
we're going to fill this house with kids. And we've been so blessed to be able to fill this. In fact, there's like 10 of them out there right now.
Oh my
It's summer.
goodness.
So they're playing video games and swimming and having a blast. So I think I always knew that I was going to adopt. I didn't know it was going to happen like that, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
That's so beautiful. And thank you for sharing that. I mean, I went through that journey of fertility as well. And I figured, hey, if this doesn't work, I'll adopt. And then it did after a year. And so then I never went down that road. But, I once heard someone say, children don't interrupt our purpose, they become part of it.
Oh,
You're raising 8 children. What has motherhood taught you that coaching never could?
oh my gosh. I mean, it's patience, patience. Um, Motherhood it's been interesting because it didn't come to me in the traditional sense. And so I had to learn a lot of things. I used to think that I was going to be the Mary Poppins mom. So in my head, I remember all I ever wanted to do was get married and have kids. Like I didn't want a career. My best friend did. My best friend, she wanted a career, and I was just like, oh no, I just want to get pregnant and have babies, and that was like what I thought. And because I didn't become a mother until I was almost 30, it was a very different experience for me. So I thought we were gonna be making slime and cookies and doing all of that stuff. And then I quickly realized that was not no, I am not a Mary Poppins mom. I am not a Mary Poppins mom. So motherhood for me, I had to find my own path. because of how my children came to me, I realized early on that I liked working. I liked showing my children work ethic. And that was something that I noticed with their birth families didn't exist. And
Right.
so I had to have a talk, right? I had to have a talk and I said, okay, what does this mean for me? I thought that I'd be a stay-at-home mom. I tried it. I thought I was going to go crazy. I was like, I couldn't do it. And I know that that's on some people's heart and that's a calling for them.
God
But
bless them, because let me tell you, I felt like the walls were closing in on me.
that's exactly how I felt. So I had to have a conversation, with God and say, okay, my kids came to me in a different way, and what they need from me, it might be different than just what I thought it was going to be. And so that's when I realized that I did have some talent in working hard and showcasing what it means to work hard and to develop your talents. And so I think I learned that motherhood is not a one size fits all. It's very different, and you don't have to be like everybody else. You can still find your path. And
Yes,
so I think that's probably what motherhood taught me, is that you have to find your own way.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Now, you and your husband, you've also faced some significant health challenges. Most couples are simply trying to survive one health crisis, right? You were navigating so much while still leading, coaching, parenting, and building a business. How? How do you keep showing up when life feels incredibly heavy?
Yeah, so in 2024, it was interesting. Meryl ended up, we both faced some major health challenges. In that year, Meryl ended up getting two hernias, but not at the same time. That would be way too convenient.
Oh my gosh.
We got a left side hernia, healed from that, got a right side hernia. So it was two different surgeries. Then, right when he got healed from that second hernia, he fell and shattered his wrist and had to have multiple surgeries for that. And then I got diagnosed with cancer. And it was like, wait, what? This was not what we planned. And how we get through it and how we got through it was not being alone. And when I first got my diagnosis, I didn't tell anybody. Obviously my immediate family, but I didn't tell anybody. And that gave me a lot of fear, and it gave me a lot of just anxiety. And so I decided, well, if I'm going to fight this, I don't want to fight it alone. And so I started to share publicly what I was going through, the surgeries that we were having, the treatment that we were doing. And that changed a lot for me personally. My family showed up. My sister is amazing. My mom, they cooked for us. My clients, are you kidding me? My clients sent me food. I didn't have to cook or even think about cooking for at least a month because so many people. So I didn't do it alone. I think that if you're going through something, obviously there's private things and we don't share everything on the internet. But if you're going through a major health challenge and you feel like there's a community that can support you, I wouldn't do it alone. I would recommend sharing it because you don't know who you're going to inspire.
Absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly. There was someone in our town that did it publicly as well. Up until her last day, she actually shared, and it was so inspirational, and so many people, it helped so many people. But I was on that journey with you. I was watching you, and I was seeing how you were sharing that information. And I know for a fact my mother's a cancer survivor, and I know for a fact that that helped a lot of people. So I appreciate you sharing that and being vulnerable at that moment to be able to share that, and that it helped you, you know.
It
Now,
did help me. I think selfishly sharing it actually is what, because there were days, there were days that I just didn't feel like I was going to have the strength. And I'd get a random text message from somebody that just said, "Hey, you popped into my head and I just want to send you love." They didn't know that I could have been, feeling absolutely terrible that day. And so selfishly it helped me more because they helped, they sent me love, they sent me kindness. And so now I think a big lesson that I learned previously, and I don't know if you're listening to this, if you've ever felt this way, but sometimes we see things on social media that are uncomfortable, meaning like one of my friends, her dad just passed away. And I would see a post like that and I'd be like, oh, that's hard. I'm not gonna say anything, right? Like I'm not gonna say anything because it's uncomfortable for me. And now what I realize is when I see something like that, when someone's struggling with a death in the family or divorce or a diagnosis, even if I don't know what to say, I still comment. I say,
Absolutely.
I'm thinking about you. I'm sending you healing. That was probably one of my biggest takeaways is because the people who reached out to me and sent me extra care that way, every single time it made a difference. It really changed my perspective and said, okay, I can fight. I can keep going. I've got people rallying me. How can I not show up? If
Right.
everybody's rallying me, I have to show up.
Right, right. And it just brings me back again to this woman that was a local influencer. She was one of the first, I would say, years ago when it wasn't a thing to be an influencer. She was one of the first influencers in our area, and she was known for her beauty and her clothes. And her last video, I mean, she's a skeleton talking on screen, and she was talking about how the materialistic things didn't matter and all of these things. So it was really hard to watch, but it was so powerful. So powerful. And, reaching out to her family and, being there for them through that. It's still to this day, I still see videos like on her anniversary of people who she impacted because of how she went through her journey publicly. So I appreciate you doing that. Now, going back to you and your husband, your business partners, which always sounds wonderful. I've been there. It's not as easy as it sounds until you actually become business partners, right? How have you protected your marriage while building businesses together? What boundaries have you had to create?
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's funny because we are so different too. I am a high expressive driver. He is a very analytical driver. And so just figuring out how to work together and how to communicate took some time because I could get my feelings hurt, right? That high expressive in me, like, you just talk to me with the tone. Excuse me, right? Like, you know what I mean? So a couple things. We decided early on that there were certain things that he was really good at and there were certain things that I was really good at. And we did take some traditional roles in that regard. And we also made time for other things. I'll never forget there was one anniversary. We went out to dinner and real estate agents, like you become a real estate agent because you want to control your own schedule. You don't want to work nights and weekends, right? So we work nights and weekends, but it was our anniversary and someone was watching the kids. We had our laptops and I sat across the table. He was writing an offer. I was writing an offer. Like, and I looked at him, I was like, I don't like this. It's like, I don't want to go out to eat on our anniversary. And so we decided to prioritize some working time together. And that meant leaving the house, right? Like go do a business planning session. And wherever we could once a quarter, get away for a night or two. We would go business planning, but it was also just to be able to have some uninterrupted time together. So we've prioritized, I don't know if it's so much a boundary, but we prioritize little trips together where we
Yes.
can spend some time, just the two of us. Now it's a lot easier with the kids being teenagers. When they were little, I remember sitting, so my three youngest are 11 months apart. I remember when they were babies, I would sit in the chair and I'd have one in the middle, one on my right arm, and I'd just sit there. And I'd be like, okay, is it your turn to work or is it my turn to work? And so we just shared equally in everything that we did in raising the family and also in our business. It's also really cool because if he was out showing, he could call up and say, okay, can you run the comps? Let's write this offer. And I'd write an offer. So when he came home, he could just be home and he would do the same thing.
Right.
So we don't always agree on everything either. Like our
That
poor
wouldn't be human.
our our business coaches have had to our coaches have had to like be an intermediary because I wanted to go this way and he wanted to go that way. But I support him in what he wants to try, and I hear him out and he does the same thing for me. And so we are equally yoked in our business working together. And then also, I don't cook. He does all of the cooking. He does all of the cooking. He likes cooking. I don't like cooking, but I'll be in the kitchen, being his little sous chef. So I'm chopping up things. Like he runs the kitchen and I'm just there cleaning up and helping him do everything. So boundary wise, it's really just we try to help each other as much as possible and to hear that other person out. But no, it's not always easy and we don't always agree on how we want to move forward with things.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you said that you said I don't cook because I always felt so guilty as a mom that I didn't cook. But I'm like, believe me, there's other things that are important.
I wish that I was a good cook. I'm just not a great cook. I can cook. I'm just not great at it.
I'm not great at it, and I don't even want to be in the kitchen other than eating.
Fair, fair.
So tell me if is there one conversation the two of you had during your hardest season that you'll never forget?
Oh, it's not comfortable at all. So when we became parents, we had also just started a business. We took our entire savings. Merrill had been licensed, but he had never sold a home. So technically he was a real estate agent, but he had never sold a home. And I was still in textbook sales. And we took our entire life savings and poured it into a business that failed. And that was super, super scary. What ended up happening is we carried a bunch of debt into becoming real estate agents. So then he started selling homes. His first goal, if you were to ask him, he said his first goal was he just wanted to make more money than me because I was making more money than he was at the time. And he did. And, it was great. But the hardest was when we had to face the debt that we had and attack it because we were going to, conferences and people were investing. We owned our home, but we didn't have any money to invest. We had debt. And so we worked really, really hard and we would have a monthly like financial meeting. And I mean, it was never comfortable. It was not fun because that also meant like we had to really share. I mean, we always shared our finances, but like how are we spending our money? How much are we saving? What are we investing in? That was probably the hardest. The hardest was getting on the same page financially and how we wanted to attack that debt, the sacrifices that we wanted to make, also just pushing through, working hard to say, hey, when this happens now, I remember it was so cool when all of the credit cards were paid off and the cars were paid off. And we came to our coaching call with our coach and he helped us. We were coaching with Jason Ferris at the time. Jason, like he was with us on every single call, going through what we needed to do, how we needed to run the team. But yeah, I think the financial conversations, if you're in a relationship and you're struggling with that part, don't hide from it. Don't run from it. It's going to be uncomfortable. You're not always going to agree, but you have to face that head on. Like there's no reason. You can't, we hid from it for a long time. And then that just builds resentment or misunderstanding
Correct.
because, I actually didn't know how bad it was until we sat down and I was like, oh my gosh, you've been carrying that stress all by yourself. I had no idea. I'd make different decisions had I known that's what we were facing. And since then, we do the same thing. We have a monthly financial planning meeting, figure out how do we want to invest, how do we want to save. He always comes to me if he wants to do, I don't, I'm not interested in investing. I know it's important. I just let him do that. But he always comes to me and says, okay, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? Here's the risk. Here's all of that. So finances, oh, they're hard, but
I love that you're honest with that because so many people that tears marriages apart, the financial aspect of it alone. But being able to have somebody that you can actually work through those hard financial, like you said, it was on his shoulders. You didn't even realize it's so good that you were able to work through that together and it wasn't just one person handling that.
it definitely made our marriage stronger. Again, not that it was easy because it's hard to talk about finances like that. Even I think at that point we'd already been married at least well, probably close to 15 years. And, you know, it just, yeah, don't avoid it. Definitely get on the same page financially.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, Christy, people see confidence. Do you still struggle with self-doubt?
Oh my gosh, all the time. All the time, all the time, all the time. I have a couple friends and my sister also. I have a couple friends that if I am, if I'm feeling nervous or if I'm feeling, maybe in my head some way, I'll text them and, they'll help me get in the right. I think we tend to want to, I know that I'm never going to be perfect. So it's not a perfectionist thing. It's that I don't want to disappoint. I want to do a good job. And
Right.
so I over prepare or I stress myself out. I get in my head about things. But confidence comes from doing. Jim Quick, he wrote a book called Limitless, and there's a quote
Yes.
in his book and he talks about motivation, right? Motivation is not something you have, it's something that you do. I think
Yes.
I think confidence is the same way. Confidence is something that you gain through repetition and through preparation.
Absolutely. 100%. Agree. Agree. So what does burnout actually look like for you? How do you recognize it before it takes over?
Oh, well, I mean, we coach so many top performing individuals and we see what it does to them. And I look at it a couple different ways. So sometimes we're going to run hot. Sometimes we have to rev, right? Like you just know. I feel like it's always that way right before a vacation. You push hard and your engine's revved, if you will. And then you also have to realize when you need a break. And so I look at it like, okay, if I start to feel, this is my own personal gauge, if I start to feel like I just can't wait until this is over, then I know that I'm like, okay, that's not how I want to live my life. I don't want to just be trying to get through another week.
Right.
And after I'm an obliger. I like to make people happy. Like I do. And I know that about myself. And so oftentimes I would say yes to things that I didn't really want to do because I didn't want to disappoint other people. After my cancer diagnosis and going through all of that, it forced me, like I just physically couldn't do it while I was going through my treatment. It forced me to have to let go of some clients and to put some hard boundaries around my schedule. And I promised myself that I would never go back to what my schedule was before I got sick,
Mm.
that I would hold that line. And it's been a great blessing. It's been very eye-opening, but having like a hard line of I don't do calls after a certain time. I don't I don't schedule. So as a coach, I try to keep my schedule in order so that it's not hard on my clients to move things around. So I don't coach anybody on Fridays.
Me
Fridays is
either.
the day that, if I'm doing it on a Friday, it's because I had to take a different day off and I'm doing makeup calls. So that
Correct.
was
Me too.
that that was one of the boundaries. Like I used to coach all the time on Fridays. So now all of a sudden you're coaching 5, 6 days a week and you're still trying to balance, real estate production. You're still trying to do all the things, make it to the football games, do all that kind of stuff. And so burnout means that I'm not enjoying it anymore. Like
Yes.
it's becoming too much where you're just constantly stressed out.
Absolutely.
Took a
Absolutely.
lot to learn that though.
It sure does. And I had to learn the power of no. And I think I learned it more with age, just understanding what I don't have to do just because I'm trying to please someone, so I don't take lunches, with people. You know how they always say, you want to get together for lunch? Never.
On
Like
time for that.
never. So yeah, I've learned how to just no, just learn the power of no. Okay, I'm not going to do too much of AI, but just for a moment, I actually think people misunderstand why you're so passionate about it. I don't think it's because you necessarily love technology. Is it because you love giving back time to people? Am I right?
That's actually a big part of it. You articulated it really well. I didn't think about it that way. It is if we can save people time, if we can be more efficient, I wouldn't say that it's something I naturally love. I just saw the power of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this can do so much for everybody. And I knew and saw immediately in my own life how it would impact and all of the businesses that we touch. When you look at these real estate agents working so hard, and many of them are scared to hire assistants. Many of them can't afford to hire an assistant. And now you can help them implement something in their business to make their life easier. Well, that's a no-brainer for me. Also,
Absolutely.
I feel like I joke with Jason Pantana about this all the time. I'm like, Jason, I'm not nearly as smart as you are. Like, Jason is ridiculously smart. I said, I see myself as the average person, right? I never took a computer programming class. This is not something that's native to me. So when I look at it, it's like, if Kristi Jencks can do this, then anybody can do this because I had to teach it to myself. I had to figure it out. But once I started to see the power of it, I was like, you guys, if I can do this, I promise you can do it. So I look at it as, yes, giving people time back, helping them be more efficient, and then just doing more with less. If we can
Yes.
do more with less subscriptions, less, I want to save the money. Honestly, that's why Meryl and I are pumping out videos every week because I'm like, if we can get rid of one more subscription, that's more money in your pocket. So you don't have to work an extra day. You don't have to sell another home just to pay for all your subscriptions. That gives you time back to your family, less burnout all around.
All around. That's amazing. And I appreciate it because believe me, I agree with you. Most of your videos have taught me how to save so much time. And when I think about it, and when I think about you, what has cancer taught you about time?
Well, that I didn't have clear boundaries. I mean, that kind of goes back to I decided that I was happier with I want something more simple. I don't need it to be so complicated. That's
Right.
why I said when he's like, what do you like to do? I'm like, I just like to hang out at home, go for a walk with my husband or my kids, swim in my backyard, go to the lake. But like, I don't need as much as I thought that I needed. What it taught me is that your time is valuable and you're going to make different decisions. Even the people that you give your time, not everybody is worthy of your time. There will be people that will take your time and they don't appreciate the sacrifice that you're making.
Right.
So I looked at it different. People who I don't want to say disrespected, but yeah, there are people that they ask you for your time, you make time, and then they don't show up, and you
Right.
sacrifice for that. So cancer taught me to value my time and to do less, like just take a step back. I don't need to do so much and to really make sure that I'm working with people who want to work with me and who are committed to their progress. Because nothing is more frustrated than when you are more invested than they are in their progress. That's just frustrating.
Absolutely. You made me think, my mom, she had a salon for 50 years and she had these clients that would show up anytime, late at night, midnight before the new year. She would always take them, right? And then when she had cancer, they wanted her to still show up that way. And there was no empathy, they didn't value the fact that, hey, she's still showing up, but give her some time to rest to the point that she literally collapsed while doing someone's hair. And I'm like, come on, they don't even care. They don't even value your
Yeah.
time. So it made me, that's one of the reasons why I asked you that question. It's like you start realizing, I realized how many times did I have a babysitter for my two little boys so I could show up properly, and then they didn't show up, you know?
Oh,
And
yes.
it's like, you're
Yes.
like, and I would get so angry. I'm like, oh, why did I even bother doing that? Thank goodness nowadays we don't even have to. We could use Shawami or anything else to cover for us. But it's like, that's when I start thinking about the value of time, and how it's, what is it that you want to spend your time on? Did you want those last few moments to be that your kids were at a babysitter, or that you just said, you know what, I could have somebody else do that showing, you
Yeah.
know? So, if tomorrow all the coaching, all the stages, all the videos, and the recognition disappeared, who would Kristi still be?
Fun.
I could see that.
I like to have a good time. I like to laugh. I like music. I like spending time with people that are fun. I think at the end of the day, I would still be an educator. I have always been someone that wants to help and motivate. I knew from early on when I would go to church and I would see speakers that had a message that impacted, and I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So even if it was serving in the Boy Scouts, I used to teach Boy Scouts every Tuesday. If it's teaching Boy Scouts or if it's teaching realtors, if it's, I still volunteer my time for churches and things that every once in a while, they'll ask me to come in and do goal planning. So it doesn't matter if it's a big stage or a small stage. I know that I would still be finding a way to have fun and to, maybe give some inspiration to somebody that's having a hard time that, hey, it can get better.
Yes. Honestly, I truly believe that you're one of those people who quietly changes lives every day. If one of your adopted children watches this interview 20 years from now, what do you hope that they would hear?
That I love them, that it was the biggest blessing in my life to, people, if people who are thinking about adoption, especially adoption through foster care, people always ask me privately, they'll say, weren't you scared? Like, weren't you scared that there's going to be an issue? You know what I mean? And I tell them all the time, I'm like, these kids, they just want to be loved. They're just normal kids. They're seriously normal kids. Was it hard to go through that route? Yes. And I wouldn't change it for anything. How every single one of them came to us came with a huge blessing and a huge opportunity to learn and to grow. And, that I think that would probably be that I wouldn't change it.
Right.
I wouldn't change how my children came to me. Obviously, I wouldn't want them to ever have pain and, that kind of stuff. But the journey of how our family was built, they didn't even come in order. They came out of order, but they had to come out of order because of how God put our family together. And so it's been such a blessing and it's so much fun. And I'm going to be a grandma in like 20 days. I'm going to
Oh
be a
my
grandma.
goodness. Congratulations.
I know. My son's having a child in July and my daughter's having a child in August. So Meryl and I are going to be grandparents here by the end of this month. And that's super exciting because
Wow.
I miss the babies. Now they're all teenagers and they're mean.
You know, it's interesting how you said someone said, what if there's an issue? I remember having that conversation when I was, thinking about adoption, that somebody said that. But at the end of the day, when you're having a child yourself, there could be issues. I mean, at the end of, I have a special needs child. I wouldn't change that for the world. So it doesn't matter whether it's adoption or if it's that you always are taking a risk of what it is that you're going to be handed. God makes that decision, not me. So
They're all so unique. Your children are not, even though they're biologically related, they probably have such different personalities.
completely.
Yeah, and that is how our family is built. A lot of different personalities, but at the end of the day, we love each other. We want what's best for each other. And I could not have been more blessed even with my family, because from the moment that these kids stepped foot into our house, my mom, my sister, my dad, it was just like they were always ours. There was there was no
I love
there was
that
no treating
because they
them
are.
different. Yeah, they were always ours. And the funny thing is my oldest daughter, everybody always says she looks just like me. It's so funny because we just look at each other and, we smile, but they're like, "You look just like your mom." And we laugh because, it's just nobody knows. I mean, if they know us like this, they know that, but for the vast majority of people, they don't know how our family was formed. And yeah, some of us look like each other. It's pretty funny.
And that happens. That does happen. When I invited you onto this show, I was hoping that people would leave saying, wow, not wow, she knows AI. I hope they would leave saying, now I understand why she leads the way that she does. Because knowledge teaches people, character inspires them. Today's conversation just reminded me that success isn't measured by how many people you know, how many people know your name. It's measured by how many lives are different because you showed up. So whether you're a parent, an entrepreneur, a spouse, a leader, or someone simply trying to make it through another difficult season, I hope that today's conversation reminded you that strength isn't the absence of struggle. It's choosing love when life gets hard. It's choosing faith when answers don't come quickly. And it's choosing to keep serving others even while you're healing yourself. Kristi, thank you so much. Thank you for reminding us that behind every successful person is a human being whose greatest accomplishments may never appear on a resume. Thank you for your heart. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.